Hey guys, Cantrip here, and I just got back from the loony bin. I have major depressive disorder, which means that I've been chronically depressed since I was about 13, and I get depressed to the point of suicidal. On Wednesday, it got to the point where after 13 years of trying to deal with it on my own, I needed some serious help. So I checked myself into an ER, along with a friend actually who was going through something similar, and that's where everything started to devolve. I don't want to spend this video going over my personal issues or my diagnosis, but I do want to spend this video going over how the medical healthcare system failed me, my aforementioned friend, and everybody that I was in this psych ward with. I was always told not to be afraid to ask for help. However, it seems I was very justified in that fear. So once they had placed me in a room and I had actually gotten to see a doctor at the ER, they placed me under what's called a 1013, which is involuntary commitment, which basically means that they think you're going to be a harm to yourself or others, and they do not allow you to leave. And at that point, they found me a room in a local mental health hospital. The one I went to is called Lakeview. I don't recommend ever going there if you have the choice. And it's not an environment that's designed to make people better. If at best, it's containment. It's near prison. Now, before I get too far into this, I want to just say that I understand that there are certain precautions that a mental health ward has to take to ensure that its patients are safe, and I am totally okay with those. For example, as soon as I got there, I was strip searched, and I understand that they have to make sure that I don't have anything that's harmful to myself or to others. What was not okay is the scrutinization of anything on my body, whether it be scars, whether it be gawking at and inappropriately commenting on any tattoos that I have, which I have quite a few at this point. There are certain things that are just imperative to mental health. Those being consistency of schedule, sleep, exercise, a support system, having something to do to keep your mind occupied, to help you release, to help you vent, fresh air. But you don't get any of those things, at least to the place where I went. For the first several days, none of the staff had explained really anything to me. I was constantly lost. I had no idea what was going on. I didn't know when meals were. I didn't know what groups were or what they consisted of. I didn't know the point of anything. I didn't know when we were doing what or why. It wasn't until about my fourth day where I got a decent staff member that actually sat everyone down and went over the rules and explained to us what was going on, when it was going to happen, and why it was going to happen. And in a room with a dozen other people that were as equally confused as I was, she was horrified that none of her coworkers had taken the time to treat us like human beings and let us know what was going on. Your day consists of 3 group sessions, 3 meals, and that's pretty much it. Sporadically in between, you may see a psychiatrist or a social worker or one of the nurses, but that's really about it. So about 4 hours of your day is spent doing that. The rest of your day is spent sitting in a common room with all of the other patients, literally just watching TV. You're allowed to make phone calls, however, they're limited to 10 minutes, and visitation was only limited to 2 days a week, 3 days a week for family members. So they isolate you and they don't give you anything to do except for watch TV and dwell on the reasons that you're there in the first place. Decent sleep is very hard to come by. Every 15 minutes, someone will come into your room and check on you to make sure that you're still breathing and that you're okay. And I understand why that's necessary. However, slamming my door open or closed is not acceptable. The same with just leaving it open, so I have to get up in the middle of the night and close the door when I should be trying to rest. It would have loud conversations as if they didn't have a dozen mentally depressed people trying to sleep. Every day they would have to take your vitals, including your blood pressure, heart rate, temperature, that sort of thing. and they would do so at 4 or 5 in the morning. I asked why one day, and the answer I was given was because that's the time that they do it. Basically meaning it was convenient to do it at that time before shift change. There were perhaps 3 staff members I met during my 5-day stay that actually treated us like human beings. And that's of the probably dozens of staff members that I had to interact with while I was there, whether that be the technicians in the unit with us, cafeteria staff, medical staff, the psychiatrists. Vast majority of the time, we were treated as numbers. Several times I was referred to as you, or no, not you, but you, or that one over there. I might as well have been one of the chairs that lined the lobby. I was definitely not a human being. Never at any point during my stay at this mental health care facility did anyone take the time to figure out what my triggers were. None of the staff, they didn't even know our names, much less our diagnoses or how to treat us. One particular pharmacist was incredibly abrasive and abusive, and found it necessary to yell at everyone, whether they be there for depression, substance abuse, or fucking PTSD. One of the friends that I made while I was in there has a chronic illness called Crohn's disease. Now, that can be kept under control by diet, but the food there was terrible, so it flared up her Crohn's disease. 2 in the morning, she got really, really sick, and she told them that she needed to go to a hospital. They let her sit and suffer for 16 hours before they finally got her to an ER. How do they let that happen? So all the while you're being neglected and abused, but you can't do anything about it, and you can't leave. And you know that if you cause too many issues, that they can just keep you longer. In Vietnam, they would take watches away from POWs, or POWs would go to extreme lengths to hide their watches because it's a psychological tactic. It breaks them mentally, and you wouldn't expect them to do that actively in a mental health care facility. I didn't have anxiety going in, but I definitely have anxiety now, and I can't imagine what it was like for the people that had anxiety going in or panic attacks, because you never knew what was going on, and they never gave you any real information. They never actually told you when you were going home. They would give you guesstimations, but it was very often that they would tell you, hey, you're for sure going home. They would have you pack up your stuff. They would give you the stuff that they'd taken away. They would call your ride, and then as your ride gets there, they cancel your discharge, and you have to sit there for another day, 2 days, 3 days, who knows? I'm so much worse now knowing that finally, after over a decade, I made a serious attempt to go and seek help, and instead of getting better, I got worse, a lot worse. The thing is, now I have a complete and probably permanent distrust of the mental health care system, because I reached out, and instead of getting better, I got abused, neglected, discarded, and robbed, because through all that, I'm gonna have to pay for it. And I believe the bill is looking something like $700 a night, not to include the ER visit. I don't know how much my insurance is gonna pay for that, but pretty positive I'm gonna be looking at a pretty penny either way. The only saving grace was the friends that I made while I was there, and the people that were in the unit with me. Even though we all obviously had our issues, we came together to take care of each other. Now, there were some bad eggs, obviously, but in the grand scheme of things, we couldn't count on the staff to do anything for us or to treat us like human beings. So we had to hold each other up, and we had to keep each other from cracking. And that's the only reason that I didn't